I want y'all to be able to see my shirt representing Brooklyn today. Shout out to my homegirl Alyssa for gifting me this shirt. It's by Brooklyn League. Gotta represent, man. I'm still Brooklyn all day. Clinton Hill, chill. Sorry, not sorry. So back in November, my buddy Sam hit me up on WhatsApp and he asked me, what does "don't bold your slugs" mean? And that really threw me for a loop because I guess around that time, screenwriters were on Twitter having the regular discussion about bolding slugs and formatting and all that stuff. But my buddy, number one, isn't on Twitter and he's not a screenwriter. And it really blew my mind that he got wind of the whole bold slugs argument or whatever. I'm just like, what the shit? So I explained it to him. You know, slug lines in a screenplay, slug lines denote the place and time that a scene is taking place, and how it's just become a stylistic choice. Some screenwriters bold their slugs, some underline. I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I do both. I am team bold, slugs, and team underline. Like, I do it. I just like the way it looks. Whatever. Now, as I mentioned, this was back in November of last year. Well, this past weekend, homegirl Ariel decided that she was going to incite Twitter violence. And she posted a tweet in which she essentially jokingly advocated for bold slug lines. It turned into this big, and you know, look, it turned into this big thing where every screenwriter, whether they're professional, whether they're up and coming, whether they have screenwriting dreams, whatever, everyone came out of the woodwork to express their opinion on whether or not you should bold your slug lines. And it seems to be a thing that happens with regularity, like with frightening regularity. Like, this topic always comes up, whether or not you should bold your slugs. And even though, like I told y'all, you know, I like to bold and underline my slugs, it doesn't matter. Like, that is a very small thing. That doesn't matter. And while, you know, I agree that, you know, small things like a bold slug line doesn't really matter, the entire conversation seemed to shift to formatting doesn't matter. And that troubles me. And I'm going to explain why that troubles me. So as y'all know, I'm an editor. I've been an editor for damn near a decade now. That's my jam. And everywhere that I've worked in an editorial capacity, we've had what's known as a house style. A house style ensures uniformity across the board, no matter if we're talking about a newspaper or we're talking about a fashion line, sending out emails and catalogs and stuff like that. The house style ensures that everything remains consistent. This is why if you pick up the New York Post, for example, a reporter who's been writing for the Post since the 80s and a reporter who's been writing for the Post since last month, they follow the same style. Like, there is a style to follow. The reason I mention this, the reason I bring this up, house style, is because I feel like screenplay format is essentially a house style. But instead of it belonging to just like one studio or production company or whatever, it's an industry thing. Screenplays follow a certain format, you have certain elements, you have your slug lines, you have your action lines, you have your character name, you have your dialogue block, you have parentheticals which go under the character name and above the dialogue. Like, screenplays are structured a certain way. If you want to write screenplays, you need to learn screenplay structure. You need to learn screenplay format. And the reason it's important is because, like I said, it's an industry-wide thing. So if I write a screenplay and I give it to another screenwriter, or I give it to a producer, or I give it to a cinematographer or a grip or anyone who's in the industry, they're going to be able to read it without issue. And not just read it, but understand like what they're looking at, because the format is kind of like its own language. Everything, if you think about, you know, novels and short stories, they're formatted a certain way. If you think about stage plays, they're formatted a certain way. And there are things that you can do and you can play with the format, but essentially the format is the format. It's not rigid, but it's there. And for me personally, like format, it's just hammered into me. Long before screenwriting became like this big dream that everyone wanted to do, I read Sid Field and I learned screenwriting format from Sid Field. I've been using Final Draft software since the 90s, no fucking lie. I went to film school and majored in screenwriting, like motion pictures with a concentration on screenwriting. So of course, format was a major part of my education. When it comes to screenwriting, format is very important to me. So like I said, while you can play around and, you can do certain things, add little flourishes and little, like whatever, if you want to bold your slugs, if you want to throw some color within the text of your screenplay, like I think that that's totally fine. Like go for it, do what needs to be done. But as I mentioned, you had some people that were saying, it doesn't matter, format doesn't matter, just tell a good story, tell a good story. And while it's true, yes, the most important thing is the story, telling a good story. I think that it's an absolute fib to say formatting doesn't count. It doesn't make an impression. Because if you go to any industry professional and you're just like, yeah, I've written a screenplay, and they say, oh, I'd like to read it, and you give them something that looks like it's formatted like a novel, or you give them pages of handwritten text that in no way, shape, or form resembles screenplay format, they're gonna look at you funny. They're gonna be like, what the hell is this? It's not a screenplay. You've made a bad impression, you look like an amateur. Screenplay format is pretty important. And because it is a house style, I think that you kind of should follow the rules of screenplay formatting, especially if you are an up-and-comer. If you're someone who's never sold a script, you've never worked on a show, you've never like worked in any professional capacity. This is me. Like I'm still trying to get up in there. And so I am adhering to screenplay format. I don't want to give anyone a reason to look at my script and say, oh no, oh, this person doesn't know what they're doing. And believe me, that will happen. Everyone keeps saying, oh, it's about the story, just tell a good story. But they're not going to get to the story if it looks like you're handing them something that's totally alien, totally foreign, totally amateur. And I don't get how people don't understand this or don't realize this. And they're all like, listen to the professionals, listen to the people who are working, don't listen to people who don't know what they're talking about. Well, my mentor, who is a showrunner on a pretty popular television show, recommended that I get this book, The Hollywood Standard, to ensure that my scripts are formatted properly so that when people receive them, they make a good impression. They're not like, look at this amateur. And I guess that's just also, just every part of life, not just screenwriting, right? When I go on a job interview, I'm not gonna show up in fucking graphic tee and jeans. No, I'm gonna put on a suit. And there have been times where I've gone to interviews in full suits and people are just like, whoa, like, you really dressed up. It's just like, yeah, because I wanna make that good first impression. I don't wanna give you any reason to say no. Doesn't matter what my resume says. If I walk in there, I can have the bomb resume. Black man walking into a job interview in a fucking Brooklyn t-shirt and some jeans, they're gonna be like, So if I go in there looking like business, at least I made a good first impression. And that's all I'm saying, as far as screenplays are concerned. Learn format, follow format, so that you make that good first impression. Once you make that good first impression, then they'll dig into the story. But I saw one screenwriter, he posted like an example of Dan Gilroy's Nightcrawler script. Dan Gilroy played with font size and did all this, stuff. And it makes for an exciting read. It's captivating, visually. It's just like, okay, I see what Gilroy's trying to do here. But that's Dan Gilroy. He can do stuff like that. I certainly cannot. I'm still a nobody as far as the industry is concerned. I mean, how would it look if I submitted a script with all these different font sizes and font faces to something like the Nickel Fellowship? Or if a manager, requested my script and I sent it and he gets all these different size fonts. They're gonna look like, what is this? What is this guy doing? Once you become established, then sure, you can do whatever you want to do because you've been vetted, your work's been out there. But up-and-comers can't do that. Don't post a page from a Patty Chayefsky script that's like blocks and blocks of text. Look at these chunks of text. That's Patty Chayefsky. He could do that. Oh, you don't want to bold your slugs? You don't have to include slugs. You don't have to put slug lines in your script. Yeah, Bill Goldman can get away with that. You can't. You're not Bill Goldman. And there was like another writer who was just like, I wrote a script with no slug lines and it sold. I guarantee you that wasn't his first script. That wasn't his first script that sold. That wasn't his first script that got attention. I guarantee you he was already working and known in some capacity as to where you know what, I don't want to include slug lines in this script. And so he didn't. And that's fine. Good for him. But I couldn't do that shit. And I seriously, seriously doubt most up and comers could. I mean, rules exist for a reason. And I'm not one of these people that say you have to always follow rules. I'm a fan of breaking rules and ignoring rules. But you gotta learn them. You gotta learn them first. And once you learn them, then you can determine when and how to break them. And to me, that extends to screenplay format. You gotta learn the format. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know how it's supposed to look, how it's supposed to read. And then at some point, sure, break the rules. Do what you want to do. Bold your slugs, if that floats your boat or finds your lost remote. Outcast reference. Y'all didn't even know that. So yeah, that's where I stand on the whole screenwriting, formatting, bold slug controversy. But hey, like I also said, I'm still a nobody, so what do I know?
Exits to freeways twisted like knots on the fingers.